how to find the team that moves you forward faster. Hey, everyone, and welcome to round 5 and yet again another episode of Where in the World is Brent? Because he has once again moved locations and thrown us all off that.
Where's Waldo? I'm right here, brother.
So
different place in my house, but same thoughts.
I mean, he's been here, there, and everywhere, and it's been a running joke throughout this whole thing.
Yeah. Maybe I'll move while we're talking. You'll have to try to figure it out.
Next thing you know, he's gonna have like these virtual backgrounds. He's gonna insert himself into different places around the world.
Be at the Golden Gate Bridge.
Space.
Right, space. Right.
Underground bunker. But today is round 5. We're moving in for the finish right here. This is the championship round right here. And most of this whole program so far has been all about you and your self-improvement, your journey of not only achieving what you want to achieve in your life and setting yourself up physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to do that, but also staying fulfilled at the same time. Now we're working into how you're going to work together with the people around you, which sort of a spoiler alert right here. It's still a lot about you and the decisions you make in that. So we're going to talk about how to discover the fastest way to propel yourself and those around you to success, which is what we all want. And if you've ever been a part of a team sport or even an individual sport where you have coaches, you know that it takes more than one person to get the results that you're really looking for in your life. So starting off right here, Brent, I'm going to throw this over to you. The first point we want to cover is how to identify and avoid toxic relationships, because there are, I mean, I can almost like, it's one of those like cover your eyes and throw the dart and you're still going to hit the bullseye wherever you throw it kind of things. There's somebody in your life right now that's holding you back. It's that person that's always coming up with something, some excuse, some reason why you can't. And it's probably closer to you than you think. So I'm just going to toss it over to Brent right here and ask, how do you personally identify and avoid these toxic relationships?
Yeah, man, Marty, I guess the older you get, the wiser you get, and the more you can notice these things. I would say you're an old soul. You have your mental attitude and the way you look at stuff now is a lot different than when I was your age. I think the more experience we have, I guess that would be more of the real terminology to put it. I think we just innately see it. We in my business at here in Knoxville, Tennessee, I will have people come in to discuss training. And I have a really keen ability to kind of grasp their personality because we talk so much. And I know if it's going to be a good fit or not, or, if they're bringing toxicity into the gym. Like you said, a lot of excuses, a lot of, like, I can't do this, I can't do that. I guess I'm fortunate to be able to pick up on that pretty quickly. Some people need a little bit more work into it, but it's basically, I think, what an individual has that he considers or she considers their personality or their overall making. Toxic to them might be something that's different than toxic to me. So I think first it's about figuring out what that toxicity is and how to shield yourself from that. And we'll discuss that as we're talking, but it's really a matter of choice. I mean, really, that's all it is. You either choose to go this way or choose to go that way. And I think you and I, since we're in similar businesses, we're both fitness people. We deal with extreme personalities and we can kind of pick up on that pretty quickly. But But I think, if you're talking line items, one is negativity. You know, negativity, I think, is the breaker of a lot of people's backs, because that negativity never goes away. It sticks around. Two would be attitude. The attitude that someone presents, whether it's postural or actually verbal or visual, you can get a really good sense of if that person's toxic or not. Now, are we right 100% of the time? Probably not, but we're damn close.
Everybody's entitled to bad days too.
Right. So when you get people coming into your gym, how do you pick it out?
Well, much like you, I am also a very intuitive person. I can make really quick gut decisions, and I used to tell this story all the time because for a long time I was a salesperson at the gym too. Like I was pulling double duty. I was coaching the people as they would come in, and I would be able to tell within about and this is sort of being sort of long with it. The first 10 minutes of class or so, I would be able to tell if that person was a good fit or not. And then, whenever it came to the sales situation that came after the fact, if I knew that they weren't a good fit, that I would not sell them. I would do everything. I would talk my way out of the sale.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the biggest determining factors is, when a person comes in and they say, this is what I want, right? Like I want to get this body. I want to feel better. I want to do this, that, or the other. And then they're literally fighting you throughout the whole class.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming back and saying, yeah, but I can't do this because of
the yeah buts. Yeah, the yeah buts.
but it's a big one. And then it's like, and I'm like, okay, well, how about we try it this way? Well, that way won't work either. It's like, okay, well, how about plans B through Z? And they're like, not going to work. And then it's about that time where I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, this isn't a good fit. Yeah. Now that person may not be toxic, but they don't fit well in the environment that you're in.
Right. And, downright toxicity, is like if somebody's openly confrontational, which would be really foolish in the line of work that I'm in, for somebody to be openly confrontational and coming to a martial arts gym. But
yes,
occasionally you do get those guys, especially who are looking to get into MMA, occasionally who come in and think they're the big bad, and they do come in athletic, they do come in mean, but they have no experience, and that they don't last long, because the meekest, mildest dude in the room who doesn't look like, he's a threat at all, will wrap them up like a pretzel, not even trying, and then those guys just disappear. But moreover, though, there are those overt toxic people, and then there's the covert toxic people. I would say the ones that and I actually don't see this a lot anymore, but I had friends within the past, let's call it 10 years, 15 years. I'm going to try to stay as vague as possible on this, but still get the point across. I've had friends in the past 10 to 15 years that I've had to really distance myself from, because it was always one thing to your face, and then they would, they would talk about you behind your back, because they would talk about other people to you. And I'd be like, I don't want to talk about them. They're not here to defend themselves. We don't know their side of the story. And it's like, yeah, but so-and-so is blah, blah, blah. And it's like,
right.
Those are like your covert toxic people. And they are also the most dangerous. So that kind of leads me into a sub point here that I wanted to get your opinion on, is, and it took me a long time to get over that too, because, it just came to this point in the road where I had this realization of, if I'm ever going to move forward in my life, I'm going to have to distance myself from these people. And they were really close friends. We had some really good memories, but eventually we hit that crossroads where it's like our values do not line up.
Right. Well, I was going to make just a little point on that, especially with what's going on in our society right now. I mean, if someone starts, people that are close to me, I've had to distance because their viewpoints are so extreme. They're almost racist to an extreme, and I'm like, I have a lot of friends of different ethnic descent, and I don't want to be associated with the person that thinks like that. It's like, I don't get where you're coming from. Ethically, you got to go away. I don't,
Yeah. So
I get what you're saying right there.
So it's like you come to this point of, a moral crossroads, for lack of a better term for it. How do you get over that? Like, it's like, okay, you've been my friend for 10 years, maybe even like my best friend for 10 years. And now it's like, I have to move on. It's like pretty much relationship over, bye.
Right. Done.
But like that takes a lot of getting over. So it's like the feelings behind it. How do you get over that? Do you have any?
I don't think you do. I think it's like it's like a Band-Aid. You can cut yourself pretty bad. Let's say you gash yourself with a knife. Here, I'm just painting a picture because it's easy for me to do that. You get stitched up, there's a bandage on it, and over time that cut will heal up. You rip the Band-Aid off, and it's pretty good. It's healing up, and you get the stitches out. It's pretty much 100% healed. Well, you can still see that scar. You still see the scar. So do you ever get over it? No. I think there's whoever that person was cut you deep, and you see that. So it's a visual reminder that, hey, I have a scar from this person, but it almost, in a sense, it makes you grateful that you left that situation. Fortunately, I haven't been in a position of people that were really close to me that I've had to distance myself from. I mean, just acquaintances and very, I would call them minor friends that may have had a negative impact on me. And for me, it's less about moral and ethical issues as far as what I've experienced, and more about the negativity, like, or I can't do this, I can't do that. Now, yes, certainly people can be trained in a sense to mentally be stronger, but at some point you got to draw the line and say, this guy just isn't getting it, or this woman just isn't getting it. And the more I see them, the more I don't want to be around them. I've had clients like that. It's just, they walk in and I just get a cringe. It's like I don't even want to train them, because every time I do, I get this crazy negative vibe coming from them.
Yeah.
And it's funny how it works. And you probably had the same experience. Like, that it's not right. And that we have to somehow part ways. And I think God, the universe, whatever you all believe in, they take you out of that situation and they pull the person away somehow. Like, I got to travel, and they travel for 3 months, and hey, I'm not going to be able to train anymore. Can I get a refund? Absolutely. Here you go. Yeah. Take your money. So, as far as people, like friends of mine, I've had very few that I've had to kind of circumvent and go around, but the ones that I have had, it was more of a negative attitude thrust into my life, and I can't deal with that. I won't. I choose not to.
Right. And it's all about coming to that realization that the more you hang around that, the more that you will eventually become that, just
right.
because you're around it. And similar situations, same person or other people within my life. It's just, shit happens to everybody, you know, and
Yep.
like whether it's like physical injuries, mental injuries, we all have seasons in our life. We all go through ups and downs, peaks and valleys. But whenever a person is just hell bent on staying in the valleys and just despite all solutions presented, all of the help offered, all of everything else, whenever they decide that like, hey, I'm staying down here in the dirt, it's
Right. It's at
gotta,
some point you gotta snip the line and move on. Yeah, I'm totally with you. Yeah.
so
Plus, you expend a lot of energy trying to get that person to rise up,
yeah.
and there's only so many times you can do that before you're just like, God, this isn't something isn't working,
Mhm.
and so yeah, at some point it's unfortunately it's just you gotta cut the line, and it's for people like if you had mentioned you had really close friends that you had to do that with. I mean, that's difficult. So you've scarred, but you can see it and say, I did this for a reason. This was a good move for me.
Exactly. So, moving on from that, and one important distinction that I think we need to make before we move on here, we're not talking about disagreements necessarily right here,
Hmm.
where everyone disagrees with each other, and that's actually a big part of this talk. Is you're not always going to agree on everything. And there's a saying from again another Tony Robbins saying that I've fallen in love with is do you want to be right or do you want to be in a relationship? So there's a bunch of different times where it's like you could be right, but if you chase that and you actually prove yourself to be right, you're probably going to hurt the relationship in the end, because it's like even if you are right, what do you win?
Right. There's
Pat
no
on
gain. Hmm.
the pat on the back, the
Right.
ability to
Hmm.
say "told you so." It's like and that's sort of like if you're the kind of like "told you so" person, it's like you might be the toxic one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You could be. Absolutely. You're 100% right.
So
Yep.
um, that leads us into, and I feel like we and every other person on the planet could sit here and talk about what's wrong all day long, but let's start to talk about what's right. What are some
Hmm.
things that you actually want to be looking for in other people whenever you want to be around them? So the exact question is, what are the skills, attributes, uh, personality types, values, and other people you should be looking for? So, Brent, go
Yeah.
ahead.
You want me to shoot? You want me to give you my thoughts?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, again, I've been blessed to have been raised in a good household, and I have good ethics and good values and good morals. Um, so as far as skills and attributes, now I'm gonna split these off from a business and a personal life. Um, in my personal life, the skills and attributes are people that have the same kind of, and I'm not saying this because I want everyone to agree with me, but they have the same ethics and values as you. A lot of my friends are from church, and so I know that we're kind of on the same page there. Now, some of their viewpoints might be different than mine as far as business and political issues, but we're all on the same team. And because we are ethically and morally sound in our thoughts and our judgments, we can have legitimate discussions rather than arguments about different things. And that's another thing that I look for, people that have slightly different viewpoints. If everyone is agreeing with you, how are you getting any better?
Yeah.
Um, Now, in a business perspective, the skills and attributes would be more, I should say, succinct, and like, you know, obviously I want people that are good people working for me.
Mhm.
So that's they have to be a stand-up person. I don't care how many accolades someone has on, after their name. If they're a bad person, they're a bad person.
Right.
Um, so
when I was looking for the trainer that came in, I was very specific. They had to have these credentials, but they also had to have a lot of experience as a coach, and things that I wasn't qualified to do. I would want them to be able to do that. So, hands-on work with people, like soft tissue work, and ethically, I'm not supposed to do that. So I need someone that can. So it was adding value to my team, based on what his area of expertise was. But like I was telling you just before, this guy's got, I don't know, 20 different accolades behind his name. It doesn't make him a good trainer. What makes him a good trainer is his convictions and his attitude when he comes in. And that was always the first thing I looked for in someone who was working for me. Is, are they going to be, if they left my facility with their uniform on, are they going to tarnish that image, or are they going to increase the validity of that image? My college coach always would say, you're not just a football player here on the field and at practice. When you leave this facility, you are still have on that persona. So, I think you could take that personally or business wise. It's like, when I leave my house as an ethical, socially confident, morally responsible person, I don't want to change when I leave the house just because it's somebody else. So I think, finding that person or people that fit your convictions, I think and everyone's different. Everyone's got slightly different convictions, and what that is for you might be different than me.
Yep.
So that's, I try to find, for teammates, as far as friends, try to find people that are like-minded and can fill some gaps that maybe I don't necessarily I'm not good at. And for business, it would be kind of similar, I guess. Their convictions are good, and they're filling holes and gaps that I don't have, that are missing from my line of work. Yeah. Now you, man, I'm asking you the same question, man.
So
show me a teammate.
I'm gonna mirror what you say a lot, but put a slightly different spin on it, of course.
All right.
But I would say that businesses themselves are run by people. So I mean, it's pretty much what you said. It is one and the same, and there are some slight differences in what you're looking for on like a purely personal, you're my friend level versus you're my colleague level, but they are very, very close.
They're close, absolutely.
I would say, like there would be a lot of things that I would be looking for is like, teammates who are complementary, have a complementary skill set to me, is what I'm looking for. Now, that sort of brings up an issue in itself a little bit, because sometimes whenever somebody compliments you so well, like there's a risk that you could begin to lean on the other person a little too much in certain situations. So that's something to look out for. But that's why I mentioned at the start of this, it's like we might be talking about teamwork here and relationships and working with other people, but it all comes back to you making sure that you constantly are being the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Good answer. Yeah. Really good.
It's like you're coming back and you're making sure that you're putting in the time, that you're covering all the fundamentals in your game. You're improving as an individual player so that you can complement the team in the best way possible. Mm-hmm. And here's another thing I didn't really think about until just now. It's like sometimes you don't get to pick your teammates. Sometimes you find yourself on a team of, it's like you say you get hired, or, you just are playing a sport. You're like, you didn't necessarily choose your teammates.
Right.
Like how are you going to work with them, and how are you going to work with the people that are so close to you, like in your skill set, like your skill set doesn't, I wouldn't go so far as to mirror the next person's, but it's so close that there's a chance of you stepping on each other's toes from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
like the answer to overcome that is the same, but it, as what I was saying before about being the best version of yourself. But I would say other than that, like some qualities I'm looking for are some qualities that I really want for myself at the same time. It's like I would hope that people would describe me in the same way I'm about to say right here. Is like, this person is resilient. This person is durable. This person gets up and admits failure and learns something from it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are good skills to look for.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who takes ownership over everything that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we've all blamed things. We've all blamed other people before, but I mean, it's what you do habitually that matters.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's I think you don't have any children yet, but I don't think, right? You and Amanda are
we
still.
we have 3 fur babies. We have
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You got fur babies. So, my youngest, well, actually both of them, when they were little, we used to reiterate to them over and over and over and over again, if they said can't, that's not a word. It's not a real word. Choose a different word. Well, I can't do this. I can't do that. Well, yeah, you can. You may need help. So choose that vernacular. To this day, I still, get on my youngest. Well, I can't do that, Dad. I said, well, yeah, you can. You're just choosing not to. Why is that? Do you need help? Do you not know how to do it? But I think if, as a parent, if you let a child get away with that over and over and over and over again, then you're leading them down the wrong path.
Yep.
Then or actually she was with Felicia the other day saying, even though it was a script off of some movie that she was watching or something, but she said, I am like dumb or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And Felicia sat her down and said, human psyche doesn't know the difference, whether you're actually dumb or whether you're saying you're dumb. And anytime you put I am in front of that word, your psyche is going to take that in as truth. And it really struck me. I was like, you know what? That's true.
Yeah.
So, I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. Why did I do that? I've done that several times. Sure, you have too. And you almost, at that point in time, you almost believe yourself, and you got to get out of that. But I think the people that we kind of cling to are those who can, like you said, resilient, is like they can get out of that. Okay. I'm not dumb. I just did something stupid.
Yeah. I used to do something that drove a lot of people around me nuts, and it was after I had lost 100 pounds. After I had lost 100 pounds, I would still go in the mirror and look at myself, and I would say I'm fat, because like my abs weren't just like obnoxiously ripped in your face, and they were at the time they were barely showing through. They were trying to, and it was like no matter what I did, I just could not get them to show. And every time I'd say I'm fat, it was like I'd have Amanda rolling her eyes at me. It was like, you're not fat. My parents would be like, you're not fat. Like everybody
right.
It was driving everybody crazy. But moreover, my abs would never come in. So as soon as I stopped saying that, habitually. As soon as I stop saying I am fat, it's like, lo and behold, it's like, there they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and I had to insert something different in, like something else had to go after I am, it's like,
Yeah, I am resilient. I am a hard worker. I am going to bust my ass today.
yep.
I'm going to do something nice to someone today. So, yeah, I think, and again, you were raised in a nice home, nice, um, ethically and morally sound. So I think we just innately kind of flock to those kind of people anyways, the resilient. And we know when people approach that don't have that mindset, we try to change them, but you got to want to change yourself before you're going to change anything else. So yeah, so we went off on a tangent there, man.
Well,
Holy smokes.
we did, but at the same time, we kind of covered the next thing is like what you can bring to the table as a teammate.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like what you personally can bring to the teammate, to the team, you, the listener right now. It's like whatever it is that you find to do that's the simplest and the easiest is like the thing that you need to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And this, for me lately has, and I feel like there's going to be a lot of parts of this where I'm calling myself out a lot, but I guess that's the fun part of this. Not everyone on the team is meant to be the one who actually scores. And we talked about this in one of the rounds last time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you look at football and you look at the quarterback and the running back, they get all of the glitz and glamour of everything. Mm-hmm. And then, meanwhile, the offensive line who does the actual work is making the holes and creating the opportunities and protecting long enough for it to happen. And meanwhile, someone like Brent, who is a linebacker, comes and plugs those holes and makes these big stops. But all the same, I ran, recently in the past half year into a situation where basically things weren't going like I wanted them to in my business, right? And I was like learning all this different stuff, trying all these different things, et cetera, and it just wasn't working. But I had finally had that moment where I don't know if you're like a Marvel fan or not with the Avengers and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it was like that scene at the end of the second Avengers, at the post-credit scene where Thanos gets up, he's like, fine, I'll do it myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
mm-hmm.
I had that moment where I was like, fine, I'll do it myself. Like and what is it? It was like, it was everything. It was like, I'm going to learn how to do X, Y, and Z and become the personality and be this person, learn how to write in a way that sells, et cetera, which
Mm-hmm.
is how Brent and I actually met on the gym boat,
Mm-hmm.
but ran up against this situation where it was like, okay, I know you spent the last 2+ years learning how to do this. And this is like sort of my internal monologue and self-revelations going on is what I'm speaking to here. Is like, you spend all this time learning how to do all these things so you can make sales, so you can score, proverbially speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ran up into a situation where it made more sense for me to be the support player. It's like, okay, now you're not going to actually be the one that scores, but you still have to understand how to score.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know as an offensive lineman, if we're going to keep that metaphor, it's like, I have to make a hole here.
Right.
So
mm-hmm.
the running back can get through, because here's where the running back's coming. I have to know what the running back is going to do, or at least what the plan is, so I know, where to go. So
yeah, so you know how to call an audible if you see it.
So it just happened to be a spot where I had to come to the realization that I personally work best in the support roles, and not so much in the in the spots that get too much of the limelight, personally. And that can be, it was a tough pill to swallow for me. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people too, but we can't all be quarterbacks. We can't all be.
Right. Yeah. That's it. Man, that's very profound there, buddy. Yeah, that's good. I find that I'm like that when it comes to stuff on the like virtual stuff. Virtual, I never wanted to do it because it looked too good to be true, I guess. Now that I look back on it, and I guess I like the limelight a little bit more. And I thought if I had to do all that virtual stuff, I'd be basically a support player. I think that's kind of one of the reasons I didn't like it. Yeah, bringing the attributes that. What was our question, anyways?
What you can bring to the table.
Yeah. So, if you and I were teammates, which I guess we are right here, is you, and this is for people out there, Marty's been doing all the legwork. I mean, he's written these outlines for us. He has the microphone and everything set up in his office there. So he's the lineman, and here, we're chatting back and forth, and you're creating the holes for the team to get through, and I'm just kind of running through that hole, I guess.
Yeah.
But so bringing it into context as far as what you do really well, I would really agree with that. I used to suck at planning and preparing and support roles, and I've gotten better just as I've gotten older, because with your customers and even your friends, and this goes to I guess what can you bring to the table as a teammate? I think, at least I know, my customers can see if now I haven't ever done it, but that they could see if I was poor planning that day or something. There's something innately or inherent from the training that I put together. Maybe it was just in a hurry. It was 10 minutes before their session, but they could figure it out. It's funny how people can do that. So, as far as what you can bring to the table as a teammate, people that you're bringing to the table can sense if you're being, if you're not being honest and truthful and doing the things that you think are good.
Yeah.
So I guess that was a roundabout way to say, as far as, when you're going to the table and creating relationships with people, is bring your whole self, bring your true self. Don't fake it. There's no fake it till you make it in terms of relationships. It just doesn't happen that way.
And bringing it back full circle to something I said at the beginning of this particular piece right here, it's like what you can bring to the team, that thing that's like going to be the most impactful is always what's the simplest and easiest, and most second nature to you to do in the first place. Is to be yourself.
Right.
That's it.
Be honest with yourself too.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing too. I mean, again, it goes back to, you don't try to fake who you are just to bring a relationship closer to you. I mean, because eventually that's going to, it's going to self-destruct. You're going to self-destruct. So, or that relationship's going to fizzle out, and it could have been a great relationship had you, been yourself.
Yeah.
So, good. That was good. I like that.
Thank you. So
good.
Moving on here. Let's talk about taking ownership in your closest relationships, because, it's one thing whenever you're dealing with a teammate, But what about whenever you're dealing with a life partner, a spouse, a very, very close family member, or a friend who's so close that is a family member?
Mm-hmm.
Quite honestly, it is the same thing, but it's the same thing on a much deeper level than before, because the risk of messing it up is something that we've already talked about. It's that deep wound, it's that scar that will always linger. So taking ownership in your closest relationships, I know for me right now, I alluded to this, I didn't like give every single detail on it, but with right now with Amanda, my wife, running her her coaching business, helping women with endometriosis, and she's killing it, by the way. She came in with a whole lot less experience than me, and like I said, I had learned so much over the past 2 years of learning how to be the personality, learning how to be like the on camera person, and all that kind of stuff. And she didn't have that luxury, and she came in cold. So it's been a juggling act with being business partners with her, while also being husband and wife, and also being best friends, and also being this. But it always comes down to one thing, and that's taking ownership of your part in the relationship every single time. So thoughts on that? Just mainly talking about how, those situations where you need to step up. I don't even want to say man up, because you could be a woman listening right now, and I don't even think man up is the exact right thing to say right here, but
step up. We'll say step up.
Stepping up, owning up to your part in things. So
thoughts on that was, again, I'm going to go back to a book that I talked about real early in our discussions, and maybe round 1 or 2. And it was David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me. And I think the major, or the common denominator in all these self-help books and, discipline books and, things that people may read that are self-improvement, are the kind of common theme is taking ownership of what you're doing. And until you do that, no relationship is ever going to work, whether it's a business relationship, a life partner relationship. But that's a hard thing for a lot of people to deal with, especially people in a position of I'm going to say like a virtuous position, meaning a coach, a movie star, a politician, is for those individuals to take ownership in something that they did is quite difficult to do. We're seeing it right now in our society with the political divides. Like, nobody's wrong. Who's going to take ownership? Someone's got to kind of reel it in and take ownership. Okay, this is the deal. We need to fix this, and your side has to take ownership, and we do as well. So I think from a self-improvement perspective, as far as 2020, that's probably a thing that I've done more than anything is thought about that.
same.
Is how can I take ownership in everything? And that doesn't stop at what I'm doing that needs to take ownership, but what is coming in my way that might not be my fault, but I could put a swing on it so that I take ownership of that. And I think in my particular world, in my bubble, if I don't see all of these things and say that I could put my ownership on it, then I'm doing myself a disservice and my family. Husband and wife struggle sometimes, it's not always, chocolate and roses and unicorns and,
Rainbow.
fairy tales. It takes a sense of, taking ownership. I mean,
it's not easy. But the minute you start looking at everything that's enhancing or detracting from that relationship, and you put your stamp of ownership on it, you can dial it down. You can reverse engineer it to say, I could do this to change this. I think I can speak for a lot of other people too. It's like, hey, that's what really is the driving force behind success, and I'm not going to say failure, but success and propelling yourself into the stratosphere of success is taking ownership of everything in your life, period.
Yeah. And where it really turns into a superpower, and you touched on this, is being able to take ownership of something even when it's not your fault. Like being able to say, yeah, that was my fault, even when it wasn't. It's like, so, you know, just to sort of paint the sports analogy right here a little bit, it's like the bases are loaded. There's 2 outs. We're ahead by 1 run, and I'm the pitcher. I throw the ball. The dude hits just a lazy pop up into left field that, you know, should be caught. Like, it is, I did my job. I got him to get this lazy little pop up into the left field. Left fielder drops it. A run scores. We're going into extra innings. Now, it would be real easy to say this game would be over if the left fielder had caught the ball.
Right.
But instead, as the pitcher saying, I could have struck him out, you know?
Right.
Like, you're like, what could I have done better in that situation or differently? Like, if not better, what could I have done differently?
Right. Maybe if I didn't let, you know, these runs that scored in the previous innings in, then we wouldn't be in this position.
Right.
So it's actually, you know, I get a kick out of, you know, I call them amateurs, you know, if I'm sitting watching a football game like the Tennessee games, and, you know, I'm you know, watching the field, of course, and, you know, oh, if he would have made that tackle, we would have won. No, if he would have made that tackle, then we maybe would have won. But let's go back into the third and second and first quarters and see what happened. It's, you know, until and this, again, I'm going to kind of come all full circle, but until someone takes control and ownership of every facet that they have touched, again, the success might be here, but you really could be here.
And you can't change anything. You won't get yourself to take the actions necessary to change until you've taken ownership and you're
right.
part of it. It's just
very well said. Yes, that's it, and that's kind of round. Well, the championship round is about ownership. You know, it's about selecting good teammates and how you can be a better teammate. But I think the ownership quality is the constant in this whole thing.
Yes. And it's still about you. It's still about how you can be the best version of you. And with that being said, like you might be like, well, Marty and Brent, it's like, if I'm taking ownership over everything, even the stuff that's not my fault, it's like, where's the line? It's like, I mean, there are some people that just like the skill set just plainly just doesn't match up. They shouldn't be on the team. Or even worse, it's like there are some people who are trying to like literally tear the team down from the inside. It's like there's people who are like, I'm just here to cause havoc. It's like, where do you draw the line on that? And like, how do you keep from spreading yourself too thin, right? Because I mean, if you take ownership over everything all the time, it's like, how do you, like, eventually you're going to run out of gas. It's like, how do you come to terms? Where's the line? How do you deal with this?
Yeah, I don't think there is a line. I really don't. And I've been in positions like that. And, yeah, there's, if you've done your homework on a certain person or a certain individual, whether it's work or personal relationship, and you let them into your bubble, you can probably look back most of the time. You can look back and say, I really shouldn't have done that because of XYZ. It's almost, it's very common to see that. I know in my own life, it's like, oh man, if I just wouldn't have done that, then this whole situation would be different. So I think as far as spreading yourself too thin, and taking ownership of relationships that you build, is you got to see that. You got to take ownership of seeing that stuff before it happens. If that's the toxic relationship, and some people are really good at masking it, and you just have to deal with it when it comes up. And it's still the owner. Again, it's you're taking ownership of that relationship. You have to. So as far as spreading yourself too thin, could you spread yourself too thin? Yeah, I suppose. But I think with ownership, I think every time you take ownership of something in your life, you fill up the gas tank. So there's an endless supply of gas, as you used your analogy.
Yeah, and here's the other thing about that. Other than taking ownership being the gas, this whole thing is cyclical. If you were to come to me and say, dude, I feel like I'm spreading myself too thin, I would ask, well, how's your sleep going? How's your nutrition? How's your exercise? How's, are you doing the things that, that are fulfilling you? It's like, we're starting back at round one. There's always the next fight. So just because round 5's over in this particular, I won't call this a fight, but
it is.
What else you got?
I mean, it is, and it's not. It's a life fight. Call it a life fight.
Yep.
And I see a lot of examples of very, very successful people. You talk about Bill Gates. You talk about who else? Give me a very successful entrepreneur, and I'll tell you, I'll show you a person that really had the opportunity to spread themselves too thin, but they're up here. So if they're up there and they have, bullets flying everywhere to them, and you're obviously, we're talking about the very small percentage, if, a fraction of a percent of people. But if we can take some of their lessons and apply them to our life, I think we're going to have a lot more success, and we won't be spreading too thin. If they can do it, they have a lot more going on than I do. I think we can do it.
Absolutely. So I think that about wraps this on up. And just a recap of the whole thing here. We've talked about how to create your game plan from the ground up. We've talked about how to simplify your fitness and nutrition for where you are right now. We've talked about how to build an unbreakable mindset. We've talked about how to redefine your why and why that's important. And today we talked about how to find the team that moves you forward much faster. So after all this, Brent and I both just wanted to point you at some other tools and resources that we've mentioned along the way, or maybe we hadn't mentioned some of them yet. But first on the list is Brent's online training, Flex Fitness. Brent, you got anything you want to say about that?
Well, we're still probably, I'm going to guess we're probably about 60 days out or so with this new platform that I'm putting together. It's actually the URL or the website that I'll send people to soon it's called virtualfitnessmall.com, VFM for short. And this resource is going to be, it's a really cool
idea, and it's basically all your training under one roof with competition and everything. I will, when we get more marketing material of that, I'll be submitting it and throwing it onto Facebook and stuff. But I appreciate you throwing that out. It's all virtual. A lot of the high level and even, trainers, just general trainers. Some people make a lot of videos and they send them out, like, the T25, I think, or whatever it's called, and P90X and all that stuff is really good, but it's on video. This kind of platform is going to be all live. So the instructors will be able to see people if they're doing something incorrectly. On a video, of course, you can't see that stuff. So it's going to be a really cool thing. And what about yours, Marty? You got stuff online. Come on, share.
Well, just the other day, I mean, ever since lockdown had happened, it's like one of my main veins is is fitness kickboxing, and it's more than just fitness kickboxing. I had my MMA coach say last week or the other week, whenever he gave me my purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he's like, if there was some way where I could be younger and be able to compete in MMA again and get rid of the head trauma and post-concussion syndrome and all that other bad stuff and compete again, he's like, if I was going to make it to the UFC, if I was going to be the absolute best version of myself from somebody who understands body mechanics like nothing I've ever seen before, I would have Marty. And so I had been teaching my fitness kickboxing class online, which is it's a mesh of, if you think about it, it's fitness kickboxing. It's a little marching band. It's a little functional movement patterns. It's a little of everything. And it's a very unique system. And I am putting that together right now is the thing. And I'm sure I'll be contributing that to your platform as well.
Absolutely.
Some shape or form.
Absolutely.
So that is coming soon. Sort of a similar situation here. Other than that, we had some books that we mentioned. We mentioned Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Make Your Bed.
Yeah, Make Your Bed by, who was that guy?
McCullough, I think, is his last name. Yep. Is that right?
I think so. Unstoppable Teams by Alden Mills.
Awesome book.
You mentioned The 5 Love Languages at some point. And I think that's about it for our tools and resources. So
there it is.
Let's talk about next steps.
McCraven. William H. McCraven. Sorry, McCraven.
You had the Mac part, right?
Yeah, the
All right. So next steps from us to you right now is implement the game plan that you created along the way. Train your body and your mind daily. Discover your purpose and contribute to the world in powerful ways. I mean, that's
perfect. Yeah. And I would add to that, implement the plan that you have. If you wait to implement the perfect plan, it's never going to happen. Just do something, start something. You don't want to look back in 10 years and say, well, I should have done that. I should have done this. It's get started. The worst plans can have good outcomes if you're consistent. We know that as trainers. I mean, you can develop a terrible plan. Someone will still make some gains, albeit not great gains, but they're still gains. They're still moving forward. So even if you think your plan is not that great, implement it.
Yep.
And then change it as it need be.
Yep. That is our conclusion and final thoughts, is start taking action as soon as you can. Record your progress. So you know, like just know like these are my numbers. Like and take ownership of your numbers. Don't like try to hide them because you're embarrassed. It's like, oh, I can't believe I only lifted X amount of weight today. I should be stronger than that. It's like record your progress, assess and reassess, like Brent was saying, and then repeat.
And train.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean exercise all. I mean, just train your brain, train your body, train your spirit, train, and don't train easy. Train smart and efficiently. It's called training economy, but train. Period.
Train for the life you want.
Right.
All right.
Cool, man. Well, Marty, it was awesome working with you on rounds 1 through 5, and I'm looking forward to whatever's next for us.
Oh,
so stay tuned, people.
Yeah. By the way, here's our little call to action right here. Brent and I have had such a good time putting this together for you guys that we're going to continue on with a podcast that will be named at a later date. So
if you got any good names, throw it to us.
I'll have to think about it.
It'll probably be like this championship bout was more about trying to get on the right track and making plans and blueprints and implementing certain tactics. What Marty and I are really good at is fitness and health and nutrition. So the podcast will probably have a lot to do with that. Training methodologies, different lifting methods, different training methods. Yeah, something, nutrition stuff. What'd you say?
And more sports metaphors than you can possibly have.
Absolutely, you got to have those. But we'll have fun doing that. We'll put the blueprint together and start nailing that out so you guys can have some more content to listen to.
Right on.
Well, thanks, Marty.
Thank you, Brent, and we are signing off.